Coming up on All About Android, we've got Ann Pruitt, Ron Richards, Duncan Jaffrey, and a whole lot of news to talk about. We discuss Android 11, developer preview 1, have it installed, show it off. Also, a slew of non-MWC announcements, because MWC isn't actually happening, but we still got announcements. Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, Huawei Mate XS, Honor View 30 Pro, and a whole lot more. And the continuing saga of YouTube Music. Yes, there's more news to report there, your email, and more next on All About Android. All About Android is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Privacy.com. Privacy lets you make purchases online using virtual cards instead of real ones, protecting your identity and bank information on the internet. New customers get $5 to spend on their first purchase. Just go to Privacy.com/Android to sign up now. Hello and welcome to All About Android episode 461, not just 100, 400, four of those hundreds and 61. Recorded on Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. Your weekly source for latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards. I'm back.
You're back.
After it feels like longer, but it was only 2 episodes, but it definitely was longer than I intended.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked that there are already changes, as Flo looks much different now.
Yes, because introducing himself is...
I'm Aunt Pruitt.
Yeah.
Also known as tall, dark, and handsome.
Oh, very handsome. He's a handsome gentleman.
That's right. Flo is still out on maternity leave, and I'm wishing Flo well in her transition into this crazy world that is parenthood.
Indeed.
I have no doubt that she's doing amazing at it. But she's not going to be on the show for a little while, so and thank you again for stepping in.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you for having me.
I was bummed I had to miss last week unplanned because I was excited to do the show with Ant, so I'm excited to be back.
Yes.
And
good to see you, Mr. Richards.
Likewise. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm even more excited because one of my favorite guests, who always brings us the best treats, Mr. Duncan Jaffrey, is here.
Yeah.
And it's that time of year,
It
right?
is.
So you are in Spain now, right?
Oh, look at that.
Coming to you from suspiciously sunny at 4 a.m. in the morning, faux Spain, with sangria
Sangria.
and jamon in hand.
Come on. Yes.
You are a good man. Look at that.
Now, I brought some for everyone, of course. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a bite, take a glass.
If you can't be at Mobile World Congress, you can bring Mobile World Congress to you.
Yeah. So you just went to the grocery store and they had ham on just waiting for you, or did you go to Barcelona, pick up ham on, fly back home?
The drive to the specialty butcher to get that was almost as far as Barcelona from Brisbane, but
But you made it happen, and we appreciate that you go the distance for this show, Duncan.
it's the little effort that makes the difference.
It is great to have you back here. Of course, you were going to be going to Mobile World Congress. Then everything with the coronavirus kind of started bubbling up. Mobile World Congress, as it stood, was canceled. There's still stuff happening in Barcelona, but you kind of got out of it, and it sounds like you're moving this weekend, so that was probably not a bad thing. You get to help your wife out with the move.
Yeah, the stars aligned.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. And I'm calling this Mobile World Congress by email now. I always get a lot of email when you're registered for these events, and then I think I can multiply that by 10. Every single stand pitch that you may have got walking around, you're getting via email now. And it's a quite overwhelming cacophony of assault of all these different emails from stands you quite often would walk past quite quickly and not make eye contact to now they're attempting to contact you through other mechanisms. And it's a bit sad for some of those smaller vendors who would have caught some interest. It's also interesting getting so much via email because I'm probably seeing a few things I wouldn't have on the floor, but I can't report on them without being there, seeing it, touching it, talking to the people.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. When I wonder next year when it happens again, will you prefer the in-person walk past the booth approach versus getting the emails and being able to filter them as they come in? What do you think?
I actually have found interesting that we get some beforehand, but not as many.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to get everyone else is going to hate me for this, but maybe see a little bit more before, or have a way of curating what's going to be there to plan your journey a bit better. I've always found the MWC app, which you can technically use to do that, very difficult to use. And so you sort of break your day into core coverage, and then hall coverage, where you break the team up and you each take a hall and you try and get through it. And there's 8 halls throughout the whole complex. And it does take at least 3 days for a team of 4 to hit that place properly. And even then, you're scooting past some people at high speed.
Yeah. I love the strategic operational approach you take.
Yes,
like the number of people per hall. Like, man, I really kind of wish I can go. I hope someday I can go and because I've experienced CES, I've experienced E3. Like, I've done a lot of the domestic tech shows, but I would love to do the Mobile World Congress just to see this depth and breadth of the experience that you're describing. So.
Don't feel bad. The CES app is pretty craptastic too. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Let me make the offer, Ron. If you ever want to go, we go every single year. You can be an honorary Ozdraudian. We'll get you a pin and a shirt, and you can be part of the team.
Yeah,
that's great, and that's so kind of you to pay for my way and for my flight and everything. That's great, and I'm on budget. I really appreciate it.
I heard him say it.
Yeah, you heard it.
Leo and Lisa, are you there?
Yeah, they're not listening right now. They've turned off for just this portion of the show. Well, we are stoked to have you on. Always great to get you on, Duncan, and happy you could join us today. And please don't let us stop you from drinking your sangria. Make sure, because I wish we had sangria here. I'd probably drink a glass of it as well. Pretty awesome stuff. All right, and with that, this is some big news happened this past week. We're going to talk about it next in Android News.
While we're pretending to be at Mobile World Congress, let's complete the experience. And Jason runs into Ron on the show floor, but can't remember Ron's name because his badges turned around.
This is a very elaborate scenario.
I know.
I'm not saying it happened to me. And go.
This sounds like a personal story. I think we just discovered something that's happened to Victor in times before. Although I have had that experience where you run into somebody who are like, "Oh yes, so good to see you," and the badge is around backwards. I'm like, no, I'm the jerk, which I am. So last week on the show, we were talking about how Android 11 developer preview may be imminent because Google had jumped the gun and made a page live and then removed it. And we're like, oh, but it's not going to happen really, really soon because that would be a month earlier than they did it the year before.
Foot and then in my mouth. I'm sorry.
Yes, exactly. The day after the show, as Google sometimes likes to do, they went ahead and released Android 11 developer preview 1. So this is the first, of course, as the name implies, the first developer preview. This is not, I would say, a build of Android that you, as a everyday user, would be, advised to install and rely upon. Although in my experience, I installed it on the Pixel 3a that I have here immediately once I heard the news. It did require some ADBing and stuff. There's no way to opt into
those were the days.
The beta. Like the easy update beta that they've implemented. That's not on this version yet. So, and that's kind of like a nice speed bump to say, hey, this is super early. So only those who really want to make it happen, you can do it.
Are you ready to put it on your 4 yet?
Android 11 on the Pixel 3a has been pretty unbuggy.
Right.
For the most part, I haven't really seen things.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, how does that compare to other preview ones? Like, the preview 1 is usually buggy.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it usually is, but I feel like hopping around on this phone. Now, mind you, one thing that I don't have on here is an insane list of apps that I have installed on my...
That was going to be my next question. Is there a go-to app that you normally would test out on the dev preview just to see how stability is? Or, are you just sort of playing around with the stock
that's
apps?
a good question. I haven't done that. Although I will say today's
Stress
Arena
test,
app,
if you will.
Today's Arena app that Ron is showing off, I have running on here and it works perfectly fine. So,
Okay.
your mileage may vary, but so far I'm having having good results. So what are you going to find in here? Well, actually, Duncan, have you installed or messed around with the developer preview at all?
No, I managed to Jason Howell my my Pixel 3a.
Oh, okay.
So I dropped it and broke it.
Oh, thank you for naming it after me. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
I thought you'd like that. So I don't have a device. Some of the other guys have put it on theirs. It's interesting to see it so early. It's giving us really good insights. However, it also needs to be taken with large doses of salt. This is so early. There's probably so many scraps of code from features that have been thought of, planned, but maybe not delivered, that even more than previous years, we need to temper our enthusiasm with a little bit of patience, I think, for some of the features that are coming out from all of the teardowns.
Yeah.
But it's good to see you've returned to your romming days. Just last week you were saying how you weren't doing it anymore, and then look, 1 week later.
Well, Google,
a day later.
I miss the days of Jason romming. Those were the Wild West adventure days of Android when we come to do the show, and I wouldn't know what would be running on Jason's phone.
Dude, it was literally day later. We had the show Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. He was like, oh.
Because I came in and we had This Week in Google, and I'd given myself a certain set amount of time to get ready for the stories that would be in Twig. And I was like, oh, this just dropped. Well, this is like half of my prep time installing this. I want it ready for the show. So it was a challenge to ADB and to do all that kind of stuff. It was a challenge to me to remember what it's like. And I did. And it wasn't that difficult. It just takes a little bit of extra time. But things to show off, like, I actually go into deep detail on this update on Hands on Android. By the way, plug my new show that just launched, twit.tv/HOA. That's going to be launching on Thursday. But, I mean, from a visual standpoint, there really aren't a whole lot of things to report. I mean, there's a little embedded screen record functionality that's part of the quick settings tile. There is a new location prompt. That's why I had Yelp here, although I think I've already accepted the location here. Let's see here. I'm going to go into app info and I'm going to location. So here's where you can see it. So basically they have a new location permission, which is ask every time, which essentially means like every time I open the app, ask me if I grant location for this particular instance. And then when I close the app, that permission is denied, which is kind of nice, right? You might just want it for this one time and don't want to have to think about it any other time. So
good feature.
Oh, yeah, I like that permission feature. Dark mode based on the time of day was one feature that was there with Android 10. Now it's sunset to sunrise. So you can have it kind of shift with the sun. That sort of stuff. I mean, as far as showing stuff, there's really not a whole lot to show, but there are hints about what's coming. There's, bubbles, the chat bubbles, which feels so years ago.
Right.
But yet they're
really
baking
want
that into
stuff,
Android
though.
11,
but
and I don't
really
understand.
want that, right?
I don't know. Why do you think that suddenly the chat bubbles thing is like a priority for Google? Duncan, do you have any guesses on that? Because I'm trying to figure that out, why that's such a priority.
I mean, it is something that's popular. I'm not a big fan of chat heads, as I call it. But the interesting difference that I've seen with the Google implementation is it seems that they're going to let you bring all of your messaging apps, or select ones that you choose into that chat bubble. So you might want, Telegram messages and maybe even Gmail, if they really go that far, to be what goes in there. But, if you've sullied your phone by putting Instagram or Facebook or something like that on there, you might want those things to not show through. And so being able to customize the chat heads to the ones you want to pop up and then have a unified, I'm guessing, chronological version of that, if that's how it comes out based on the reading I've done, that's an interesting implementation. So again, you take the notifications API and then you feed that into the chat head style thing, and that's using their existing extensibility with their intents mechanism. And giving you a little bit extra feature. I don't mind that. I probably wouldn't use it because I hate the head popping up. Yeah. But it's a nice feature for those who want it.
Mm-hmm. So I just sent myself a message from one of my accounts to this one. Now, this is looks like a normal notification, right? Hey, here's a chat bubble. Yo, it's not quite yet. If I tap and hold this, I get this expanded options area, and I can tap to show this. And you can see also it's under a heading, Conversations. That's a new heading inside of notifications area. I could favorite or snooze it or whatever, but I'm going to show as a bubble, and hopefully it does. Okay, yeah, so there you go. So there's my bubble. There's my little Hangouts bubble. Now
I don't like the bubbles.
It just kind of feels a little
to me.
older. Yeah. It feels like years ago. I know it's going to show my messages when I tap this the first time. So then I'll go like that. And now if I show it, boop, it'll show me just that conversation. So I think that's a bug. Like when I tried to show just this conversation, it like launched Hangouts. And then when I got rid of it, now it does what it's supposed to do. So I've got the little window. I can drag it back over, tap it, and it minimizes. That's just one of the features. One of the ones that's easy to show,
Now, Mr. Duncan.
Jason,
go ahead.
It's normal to talk to oneself. It's not normal to text to oneself, just so you know.
Sometimes I just need a friend. And sometimes the best friend I have is me.
We should talk. We should talk.
Yeah, you've got someone like Ant next to you. I mean, come on.
Yeah, grief, man.
What were you going to say, Ant? You had a question?
Well, Mr. Duncan was saying, when we started this conversation, how people shouldn't really get their hopes up because features are going to, be a little bit different and change, and you have no idea with the bugginess and things like that. But what about say a feature that they stuck in here, and then they all of a sudden, you know what, we're not just going to have that in this version of Android at all, such as the chat head thing. Have you all seen that in the past with developer previews? As I can't remember that something was in a preview and it was just totally taken away because it never got past the bug scrub.
Yeah. I feel like I have seen that. I'm trying to remember what it was. I feel like we saw that with Android 10, actually.
I feel like I feel like the gestures was a roller coaster of that from preview to preview to preview, right? Wasn't there different methods of gestures through that one?
Okay.
I mean, there have been. That's been kind of an evolution.
Yeah.
Wade County in the chat room is bringing up dark mode in Android 6. Seem to have flit in and flit out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it finally made it in Android 7. You could maybe consider scoped storage as one of those things, which was introduced in Android 10. They had plans for that, and I believe in the betas it appeared there, but it was messing with how the apps. So basically, actually, let me back up. Scoped storage, essentially, from what I understand, is a way to kind of force app developers to put their access of the storage on a device into kind of like a sandbox. So instead of a device having simply access to all storage on the device, they have access to these public points that all apps have access to, and then for their general app storage, only that app has access to their particular sandbox. They tried to put that in Android 10, but then and their intention was for that to stay. But I guess developers felt like they needed more time. It kind of created usability issues with users and how the developers had their apps made. So then Google decided, all right, we're not going to put that in the final version of Android 10. But we are letting you know it's coming in Android 11, and we're going to have some sort of graceful kind of transition into it.
You guys need to get ready.
You need to be ready for this. And sure enough, that is happening. Google has said as much. So, I mean, that's one example of that happening. I mean, that's the thing. Usually before they started to do these public developer previews and everything, we just never had insight into features that would appear and then go away. And I know that there's more that I'm just not remembering right now, but it's definitely happened. Yeah. Mainline, they added another 12 updatable modules. I'm excited about that. I think Project Mainline is a really cool direction for Android. That's where instead of having to do a full system update of the OS, that relies on the carrier or the manufacturer to approve it and let it through. Instead, Google's adding these channels within Android, these areas of Android that are updatable modules, much like you would update through the Play Store or something like that. And so
seems like I remember the analogy of it being like a brick by brick.
That's a great analogy. And so I think that's good for the longevity of kind of like update, for the growth of Android as an updatable platform that everybody can continue to get updates that aren't reliant on somebody else. And a number of other features, but really it is very minor from a user standpoint. This first version is really all about developers having it as early as possible so they can start playing around with their apps, get to understand like how they're going to integrate and interact with some of these features, and start buttoning things up for it.
I always wanted to get into the mind of a dev for instances like this. Not all the time, trust me. just how excited do they get when they see these pop up into the wild? Do they wake up first thing in the morning? It's like, yes, time to fire up Android Studio. Let me get to it.
New functionality.
I already do that already.
New functionality. Or do they wake up and they go, oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I just got everything working. Yeah.
It's like, what is the story here?
It's probably a combination of both.
It's a little bit of both. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would imagine so. So Android 11 Dev Preview 1, that's it in a very brief, abbreviated version. But more on that later this week on Hands on Android. All right, Ron, you got the next one.
So moving on, Android 11 is exciting, but this past week has been a little rough for Samsung. A whole bunch of stuff here, so strap in. So Samsung devices around the world suddenly received a Find My Mobile push notification last week.
Yeah.
The message was simply 1, the number 1. That's all it was. It went out to users who had and users who had not registered for Samsung's Find My Mobile service, which is not a good sign. It affected devices running Oreo and Up. The Register reported a day later that a data breach within Samsung was linked to the number 1 notification. And then Samsung acknowledged that the data breach had occurred, but in fact, the 1 notification had nothing to do with the data breach. So 2 separate things happening, a data breach and then a misfired number 1 notification. The breach in question affected less than 150 accounts. So that's a relief to hear that it was a contained data breach. And Samsung simply says the number 1 notification was sent inadvertently and that it doesn't affect the devices in any way. I feel like we've seen this happen before where a mass notification has gone out. Didn't OnePlus have this where it sent out a bunch of Chinese or something like that? Like, it was not good.
Yeah,
so weird little glitch in the system, but it doesn't stop there. In the not good for Samsung file, the thing that's shaken up the world, coronavirus, has caused a temporary shutdown of the Samsung factory creating the Galaxy Z Flip, which is at the Gumi factory in Gumi City, South Korea. An employee was confirmed to have the infection and was discovered it last week. The announcement said the shutdown would last until yesterday. And they might have to prepare for more shutdowns if other employees end up testing positive for coronavirus. And this is coming off the heels of the news that South Korea has had, instances of coronavirus and warning people not to travel there, and things are shutting down. Not good, Bob.
Good, Bob. So
if there's a delay in Galaxy Z Flips, that's why.
Yeah, and I'm sure more. Like, I feel like this is just the beginning of as far as how tech companies are going to have to deal with this. That's only the beginning. I did think it was interesting that it seems like they shut down for a day and they're like, oh no, everything's good.
Right.
Meanwhile, everything else that I'm reading is like 2 weeks.
Nope. 2 weeks, a month.
But there's a lot of money riding on these companies. So,
but the Z Flip, really, is a lot of money riding on that. I mean, considering they're only putting a handful of them out there in the wild.
Yeah.
But they cost like $1,500, so there's money in the Z Flip.
Yeah, what they're losing in volume, they're making up for it in cost. Yeah, the 1 notification, that was just kind of weird. I think some people were scared that maybe it was like we were, starting some like weird horror movie where like you get the 1 notification and that means that you're next.
Yep, you're next.
Perhaps if you get the 1 notification 14 later, you get coronavirus.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Boy,
this went dark.
Why does it always seem to come back around to the coronavirus right now? It really does. Yeah, I don't know if there's much more to talk about on this one.
But can Foldables get a break?
That's all it is. What's that?
As Ron keeps saying, this is the year. Every year's the year, but this is the year of foldable phones, and it really was. We've had 2 come out.
Yeah.
I just like them to get a break because, like Ron, I'm really excited for the category, and I want them to do well, and I want the companies to be given the headroom to get the time to do well. Because one of my fears is that the bean counters at the big companies will just go, it hasn't worked, and axe it. And there is necessary trial and error and adolescence and childhood that these devices have to go through.
Yeah,
we've got to do these things to get them out. I know some people are arguing, well, do that behind closed doors and don't sell it to me. And I understand that from one perspective, but there's nothing like iterating in the open, getting the feedback from the
ship and iterate. Yep, I agree.
shipping
And I was
in,
gonna
right?
say,
But at that price, though?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think early adopter, we know this is a fact in technology that early adopters will pay more to be those early adopters. And those are the people you want putting the devices through their paces and things like that.
Yeah,
I will say, though, that if any phone's factory was going to be affected by coronavirus, it would be one of the foldable phones.
Okay.
Because the foldables just cannot get a break in this marketplace for some reason. Like something always seems to happen. So I'm glad that this factory wasn't closed for very long, and I hope it stays open, because I would hate that this phone be branded with, you can't get it because of coronavirus. It's like, God.
Right.
So,
all the best to the affected employee, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope he's okay. He or she is okay.
Now, Duncan, have you had the chance to play around with any of the recent crop of, any of the foldables? The crop is pretty small, let's just say. But
they haven't officially come to Australia yet. One of the Australians had a little bit of hands-on time with the Razr, a little bit. We didn't get to take it away, but was quite impressed and loved the idea. This was a bit before launch, and we didn't get an extended time. None of us have seen in the flesh the Z Flip. We played a little bit with the Mate X and the Galaxy Fold, which didn't quite do it for us. I do love the idea of a compact that folds into a phone rather than a phone that folds into a tablet. In the future, maybe I'll want both. But I could see the utility of being able to have a work device that's my tablet, which I use a tablet a lot for work, but I could fold it down and use as a phone, maybe as my secondary. But the smaller primary is interesting. But it is the whole thing. Since the Flip Day, we do interact with our phone a lot. That Bubbles app that you brought to the arena a couple of weeks ago, showing you how long you open your phone. There's a bit of a scary insight in there.
Every time I look at my phone, I'm scared when I look at my phone and it shows me all these dang bubbles on my home screen.
So imagine that it represented a flip.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Every one of those is a flip.
You know what throws me off about this app? I wake up in the morning and it's blank, and my very first open, and like the largest bubble in the world drops. I'm like, seriously? You got to do that to me?
Making you feel bad.
I know. It's like we got to catch up.
It's very binary. It's either on or it's off, brother.
Yeah.
Proportionary. So I want them to succeed. I want them to continue. I want maybe what comes next.
But
they certainly can't catch a break.
Yeah, that's the way it seems. Well, we've got foldables coming up a little bit later in the show, but while you were talking about having either the mini that folds to a phone and then the phone that folds to a tablet, and you said maybe someday I'll have both, made me think, when you fold a piece of paper in half and then in half again, maybe that's the next foldable. You up and then out. And it's like, you've got a tablet when you want, you've got a phone when you want, and you've got a little clamshell that you can fit into your pocket.
And you got more points to break.
Yes, that's true. And it's only, $3,000, but whatever.
Perhaps the future is a sliding phone with a rollable display.
Yes. So we did discuss that one. What do you think of that one? That was the TCL one, I think, right?
No, TCL.
It was. Actually, out of everything I've seen that I missed at MWC, that is the thing I'm most upset about. TCL have some great engineers and do some interesting concepts. It seems there's a bit of a disconnect between their concept engineers and what they're allowed to release, but that doesn't distract from the quality and the vision of their concepts. And so that whole idea of a phone that expanded out, perhaps with a rolling screen, using that rolling LCD stuff, OLED technology, similar to what LG's shown off on their TVs at a micro scale, that might be a way to actually get an expandable phone, not a foldable phone, that doesn't have that bend down the middle. But the question is, how does the substrate work? How solid is this to use? But I was really intrigued by that. But I could see a rollable mechanism hidden deep in a phone getting gunked up quite easily.
Yeah. It carries its own risk for sure. And maybe it doesn't have a crease down the middle, but maybe it has like a little sloping at the edge where the display wraps around the display. Around the phone when you undo it.
How does it react to the internal heat being rolled up like that? There's a couple of different things to consider.
For sure. All right. Well, we've got a whole lot more coming up here in the hardware section. Before we get there, let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode, and that is pricey.com. Think about how you use passwords, right? You don't use the same password everywhere. And so why would you do that with your credit card? Why would you use the same card number everywhere that when you're shopping online? Privacy.com gives you a brand new virtual Visa or MasterCard card number for every purchase that you make online. You can download their browser extension from the Chrome Web Store. They also have an Android and iOS app. And then you just link your virtual cards to your U.S. checking account or your debit card. And Privacy lets you take control of your finances from there. It's super easy to use. You can set spending limits so you can control your subscriptions and recurring payments. You won't have to worry about forgetting to cancel your subscription or your free trials ever again. You just have a single card for it. And, if you forget to cancel the subscription and that card is canceled, you've stopped that card because it was a single use for that particular use, then it can't recharge. It doesn't exist anymore. So makes it easy there. Make sure you're never accidentally billed twice or upgraded without your consent. You've got full control of that. With their card sharing feature, you can easily and safely send someone a Privacy card straight from your dashboard. It only takes a couple of clicks to do. This is a desktop-only feature for now. And you won't be copying, pasting, or screenshotting any of that. Your recipient won't even need a Privacy account to access the shared card. You just click the share button when viewing a card, enter an email address to share to, and then Privacy handles the rest and makes sure that the right information gets to the right person. When it comes to security and cards especially, you want to feel safe about your purchases that you're making, especially online. We've gotten really comfortable with purchasing stuff online, but it could be more secure. Privacy is PCI DSS compliant. It's held to the same security standards as your bank. So sensitive information is secured using military-grade encryption. And that just means that your information is encrypted using split key encryption with partial keys held by separate employees. So no single person can access all that sensitive data on the server because it actually requires multiple keys to decrypt. Privacy does not sell your data. Your information is safe with them. And with their free personal plan, you can create up to 12 cards a month. Those are secure, merchant-locked, single-use cards. Or you could choose between their two paid versions. They've got Pro and Teams. Pro is just $10 a month, and that gives you access to everything that's included in the free personal plan. But you also get 1% cash back on all purchases and 36 cards in a single month. And if you own a small business or you're in charge of a team, the Teams option is just $25 a month. And there you have access to everything that's included in the Pro version with the addition of a dedicated account manager. There's also 60 cards a month and transaction limits tailored to your business needs. It really is the easiest thing, and it makes so much sense. Like I said, if you're used to using, a password manager or, juggling all these passwords, take that logic and apply it to cards, and suddenly you realize why Privacy is such a good idea for your own security. And we're talking about money here, so it's really important to protect. Head to privacy.com/Android, sign up for an account there. As a special treat for our viewers and listeners, new customers will automatically get $5 to spend on their first purchase. This is for a limited time only. And that is free money, so you should definitely check it out. Go to privacy.com/Android, and you can sign up now. And we thank Privacy for their support of All About Android. All about it. All right, and now it's time for some hardware. All right, so if Mobile World Congress were actually happening, all of these announcements would have happened there in spectacular fashion, but instead we hear about it kind of like by a blog post or something. I don't know. It seems a little less than
just
spectacle.
A slight little bit of lackluster, but it's okay. We're always talking about Samsung, and we're always talking about the likes of Google and their phones, but Sony's still out there too, and Sony has just announced. Sony's just announced this new Xperia 1 II. If that was a camera, I'd say Xperia 1 Mark II.
And that's exactly how it is.
Right. So I can't quite figure that out.
They're rolling that over to smartphones too. So it's Xperia 1 Mark II.
So go ahead, marketing company. Nice work. But this is their new flagship device. Is touting a nice 3840 by 1644 OLED screen, 6.5 inches. The form factor is super slim at that 21:9 aspect ratio. 4,000 milliamp battery, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, 8 gigs of RAM, and it's running the Snapdragon 865. But we don't have the millimeter wave support. As far as 5G, it's only going to be the mid-band only.
Okay.
All of that's fine and well, but what gets me is the cameras, of course, because it's Sony and Sony sensors. That's what matters. So we got a 12 megapixel main camera on the back and a 12 megapixel 3x zoom telephoto and a 12 megapixel wide angle. And lastly, Courage Port. Flagship phone with a headphone jack, folks. How
the courage to do it right.
That?
The Courage Port. Oh, jeez.
Ron has turned the corner. Now Ron's frustrated when there's a Courage Port.
Really? Come on.
It's just taking up all that room for other cool components.
Such as.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
More
Why have you
battery
got to
space.
yuck my yum, Ron?
What was that?
Why have you got to yuck my yum?
Yeah. Nice.
Jack my yam.
I thought that was just in our household.
Wow. Anyway, the list price is going to be about $1,300, which really, really bugs me because is every phone going to be $1,000 henceforth and forevermore? What is going on?
That door is open now, and so apparently so.
Son of a mother. Not good. I don't like those kind of prices. Hopefully this will be something that could be rebated in a couple months after it's out into the wild, because that's just too much for a phone. Way
Pruitt,
too much.
You don't have to pay those prices, because with devices like the Pixel 3a, there's almost no need to spend any more money unless for some reason you just want to.
Amen to that. As well as the OnePlus line of devices too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true. It launches only in Europe based on this announcement. So Sony cameras, I mean, from your perspective, like they're where
always,
it's at.
They're always out there, worth being in the conversation, whether it's on the smartphone side or whether it's on the DSLR and mirrorless side of things. I mean, that's just what they do. That's one of their arms of business, if you will. Even if you're walking around with a this is a bad example, say a Motorola camera, it pretty likely it has a Sony sensor in it. So they're doing.
So many phones have the Sony sensors in them. Yeah, absolutely.
So you would assume that this is going to be a nice device from Sony. And I don't know about you guys, but the few times that I've played around with the Xperia line of phones, they were pretty lackluster on performance. Picture was okay, but boy, those were some really, really slow phones.
Yeah. I don't, Sony and this show has a storied history. Like because I have.
Are you saying I wasn't supposed to put this in the doc?
No, not at all. No, I'm happy that it's here. That it's in the top slot, in fact, of hardware. We always talk about Sony phones, but we rarely, at least here in the U.S., you rarely ever see them.
Nope.
And so
Sony
it's
in the wild. I'm always looking for it.
Yeah, totally. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and kind of fascinated if you ever do see it out in the wild. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Like, did you buy this overseas, or are you just a big Sony brand fan? Is that
you have a PR? You have a PR connection. That's how you got the phone.
Yeah, possibly so. Possibly that.
You have a podcast?
So it's all, for me, Sony phones are a curiosity.
Yeah.
And I have reviewed some of the phones released by Sony in the past couple of years. And more or less, they're kind of like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
that's another phone.
Some of them are better than others, as is the case with a lot of phones that come through the studio. But obviously, kind of in some ways unremarkable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they look nice, but yeah, like some of them have just been really chunky and heavy, and it's like, well, why is it? What's
Who's going to
on?
carry this around?
Yeah. And I mean, they have their fan base. In your neck of the
Sony's
woods,
pulled out of most markets.
Yeah,
Jason?
Well, I was just gonna say, in your neck of the woods, are you like is playing the Sony in the wild game? Is that something that you can actually find some Sonys, spot them out in the wild?
2 years ago, you would have played it and had some success. It was a relatively successful brand, especially in the mid-tier, sometimes in the upper tier. Sony's had a strong brand presence in Australia for a very long time. Okay. And so there was a staunch group who did follow it. But about May last year, I think it was, Sony actually retracted their worldwide phone shipments to 4 markets. And I think it's Japan, Europe, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, if I remember. Now, Europe's obviously a very large market for one term, but they pulled out of Australia officially. They're no longer supplying the US and Canada and anywhere that isn't obviously those places. So it's a game without any reward now because they really have contracted that business. What always surprised me is similar to what Ant said, for a company that's known to make great cameras and supply the sensors to a great number of other OEMs, they never managed to get their own software. And I do think it was the software on their devices
so bizarre, right?
to do the photos well. And because they didn't use stock that was a bit of a skin, it was just never slick.
Yeah.
They were nice phones. I loved holding them, but they just always just missed.
Yep.
I have a Sony tablet that's a couple of years old, and it runs fairly fine. I mean, it's just sort of simple and clean, but it's not an iPad, you know. But
is that the one with the rolled edge?
No. Dang, what is it called? It was like super duper thin. It's a couple of years old. I can't remember what it's called, but it's good enough to consume content, but it's not good enough for much else.
It's interesting that Sony has, I mean, Jason, as long as we've been doing the show now for nearly a decade, Sony's been present in some way, shape, or form with phones and tablets, but I just don't see it on the subway at all.
Nope.
No. Yeah.
You know, and we've had people tell us where you can get them. There's a Best Buy down a block away. They're $5 says there's Sony Android devices in those Best Buy. I don't see anyone buying them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. Was it
Strange.
with Xperia Z3 tablet?
Z3, that's it.
Is that it?
That's it.
So that's an older tablet.
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah, okay.
But it still works. It just runs.
Okay. I mean,
not doing much else with it.
Yeah, right. Soon to be a picture frame.
That's
Sony picture
about
frame.
it. I'll fire up Netflix and just tell it to play. You know,
okay.
That's
it's a Netflix device.
It does something.
Well, so we had another announcement, or whatever you want to call it, from Huawei. Would be Mobile World Congress. I'm sure there was probably planned to be a big event at Mobile World Congress, and instead I think maybe they streamed it or whatever. But the Huawei might be one of the companies that still held their event, if I remember hearing correctly. I didn't see it in this article, but the Huawei Mate XS, which is the next version of the Mate X. The Mate X, of course, was their foldable phone that they showed off last year at this event that ultimately ended up only releasing in China, if I'm not mistaken. You know, all the foldables
will never get here.
Yeah, never made it here. All the foldables, you know, from last year kind of had issues with that, and this was one of them. And so the Mate XS is expected to have a wider release. They didn't announce the price.
Get it? A wider release?
Oh,
that's a true. Wider foldable.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
Yeah, totally did not mean that one. I'm guessing
the XS refers to the model name and the pricing, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, sure, the pricing is probably going to be in the $2,500 range. That's what the Mate X was priced at, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty pricey, likely, though they did not name a price, so that's important to know. The Kirin 990 5G processor, upgraded camera system, tweaked Falcon Wing hinge. I love how creative they're getting with the hinge names. And they say less crease in the folding area due to a new display coating, 4,500 milliamp hour battery. So this is the foldable design where the display stays on the outside, and
which is nice.
Is it nice?
Yeah. So I saw the X at MWC last year, and if I'm going to have a phone that turns into a tablet, this is how I would like it to be done.
Okay.
Because one, I think that there could be in years ways that both sides could be activated for use in different situations. It also means when you pull out your phone and it's closed, you have a full phone. You don't have some dinky little half display that you might do half the things. Yep. You have a phone. And so this is the device that I could picture myself carrying as a work phone, and then I flip out at meetings to bring up agendas and take notes and so forth, and then fold back around again. It's a beautiful piece of hardware. Huawei make great hardware. Anyone who hasn't held one of their premium devices just doesn't understand how good a manufacturer they are.
I got some hands-on time with it during the Ant and Leo's excellent CES adventure this year. And it was a nice phone. And even down to, like you said, with the way they had the display going around it, and you pick it up, everything just sort of felt natural. And even down to functionality with the camera and the viewfinder here, the viewfinder on the other side.
Yeah.
It felt great. And the fold wasn't an issue. You know, it just felt natural. And it was sad. I'm thinking, I'll never see this phone again after leaving here.
Maybe you'll get the XS.
I mean, it's interesting because they took such a, like, when we thought about foldables, we really defined what our perceptions were going to be with the inward foldable and that sort of thing. And the first time seeing this, I was like, oh wow, they totally thought about this in a different way.
Right.
And it's really curious to hear how natural it feels. And I wonder, side by side with a Motorola flip or the Galaxy Z or any of the other flips, whether those feel unnatural, right? I'd be curious, kind of to have like a side by side test drive.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah. I'd love to just have one foldable to put my hands on and use at all. Yes, because it seems like every foldable that comes out, I still have not used any of them, and I want to play around with it. The one thing that worries me about this outside foldable perspective, like Duncan, I get where you're coming from. It's nice to have it just be a phone the second you pull it out. But the display technology, like one thing we've seen with all of these foldables is that, whether they're using an ultra thin layer of glass like they did with the Z Flip, or they're using the plastic kind of approach with these other ones, they're just not very good at handling any sort of like pressure or anything. So, they scratch easily. Like if it's a phone, I'm going to put it in my pocket, but let's be real, every once in a while I put something else in my pocket accidentally. And is that just going to totally wreck this phone the one time I accidentally do that?
I mean, my phone is in and out of my pocket on a daily basis, and I worry about scratches to the front of the phone, and it just I would share the same kind of the durability concern.
Yeah.
I think it's no more or less than it is on another device. There's just twice as much screen to get those scratches.
Fair. That's fair.
Fair enough. Now, this was not. Sorry.
I think you're about to lead into it.
Well, yeah. So the MatePad 5G is the other announcement that Huawei had, and this is a 10.8-inch high-end Android tablet.
Ooh.
Kirin 990 5G processor, hole punch display with 90% screen-to-body ratio, an M Pen stylus. There's a keyboard attachment option. So if you want an Android tablet that's on the higher end, I guess this would be the option. I don't think I saw a price for it, so I don't know how much it costs. But
I personally would be fine with something like this because I'm stuck in the Android ecosystem, if you will. And I have an iPad, and I only use that daggum thing to fire up Photoshop for Lightroom. Photoshop for iPad. That's the only time I really use it.
Yeah. Outside
of that, I would have just use a regular Android tablet to do other things, whether it's consuming media or just going into Lightroom on side of Android or inside of Android or whatever.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Ant. Where are you going to get Lightroom from?
Yeah, that's
all of
the problem.
These devices are sans Google Play.
That's true.
And, I have a big bone to pick with you Americans because I'm sure every one of you made this decision unilaterally.
Yes, we are fully responsible, each and every one of us on this panel.
Let me back up. I don't want Mr. Duncan to swing at me on that. Hold on.
He'll be swinging with a fistful of ham on, so you'll be okay.
I'm fine with that. Swing at me all you want with that ham on.
We'll avoid the politics of the situation, but obviously we can't discuss Huawei without talking about them being on the entity list, them not being able to get device certification. And as a result, you've got no Google Play services, no App Store. Huawei has done an unbelievable job in creating their own ecosystem out of thin air in a short space of time. And it's commendable work to have done that so quickly. But it is not going to replace the Google Play Store and the thousands of apps and the subscriptions and your Lightroom, which would run on this tablet like nothing else. And unless you sideload against Google's current instructions, albeit maybe politically motivated, you're just running that risk. And that is a real shame because, like I said, Huawei makes some of the best hardware on the planet.
Totally.
Software?
Yeah. They're working on their software. They don't have much choice.
No.
So, yeah, the U.S. has not left them much choice but to work on their software. But yeah, and Google had mentioned, they published that support article on Friday saying, hey, by the way, don't install our apps and services on these devices via sideload.
Because that's something a community listens to. Don't do that. I don't want you to sideload that. Come on.
If you do that, you run the risk of installing an altered application. Fear.
I don't care if it is Fortnite.
Yeah.
I think one of the differences, and I haven't been able to get clarity on this, I don't know if Google Play Protect works as well when you sideload on the services. It should, as I understand, but I've never been able to get a clear answer on that. And so without Google Play Protect running and constantly checking every app, regardless of where it came from, that might be part of the motivation.
Yeah, could be. Related to Huawei's announcement would be, is Honor a sister company? I don't know what you call them, but Ron, you got this one.
What is the relationship with Honor? I don't know. Anyway, Honor went ahead and had their own live stream at MWC, or not MWC, whatever you want. They weren't going to be stopped, and they had a live stream to announce the Honor View 30 Pro through a worldwide launch, and the 9X Pro. So the Honor View 30 Pro is running a Kirin 995G chipset. It's got a 6.7-inch 1080p display with a hole punch dual selfie cam, 32 megapixels and 8 megapixels. The phone's got a 4100 milliamp battery. It's the first Honor phone to release outside of China and without Google apps and services. It also includes a triple lens camera with a 40 megapixel main, a 12 megapixel wide, and an 8 megapixel telephoto lens, and laser autofocus. And then additionally, the Honor 9X Pro is running the Kirin 810 with 6 gig of RAM, 256 gig of storage, 6.59 inches, 1080p display, triple camera, 48 megapixel main, 8 megapixel wide, 2 megapixel depth, with pop-out front-facing camera. I love the pop-out. And a 4,000 milliamp battery. No pricing listed or availability dates or anything like that, but they've been announced. They exist. I know Matteo probably is going to get these immediately as soon as they come out.
Yeah, probably
since he's a big Honor phone guy. But there they are. Lack of MWC did not hold Honor back.
Heck no. Ain't nothing going to break its stride.
Good on them.
Do we like these phones? Are these good? Good entry points into the 5G world without Google apps? Don't sideload.
But don't do it.
Matters not to me, considering the whole 5G debacle not necessarily spreading as far as we'd like. So
not meaning much. Yeah, I mean, I know in the few Honor devices that I have reviewed on the network in the past, I've been pretty impressed by the build quality and kind of the design of the devices and the performance as well. So I think these sound like very capable devices. I don't know that we'll see them. Is Honor a brand that you're likely to see in your neck of the woods, Duncan?
Yeah, so it is a sub-brand of Huawei.
Right.
I believe it was originally brought out for Europe to appear to the tweens or the millennials or whatever we call them as a brand, and so it was a brand very focused on there, but with Huawei's parentage of manufacturing and so forth, they make very capable devices. We do get some Honors make their way over here, but unfortunately it's the same discussion as before.
Yep.
Until these trade negotiations are fixed, you're going to have very good hardware with very good capabilities without the software to back it.
Yep.
And that's a real shame. And Huawei's a real contender in the international market. So the quicker they can get back to form, the better. I think the risk for US/Google is if this goes on too long, as much as we may not like their software and a few bits and pieces, if they get large enough to where they can decouple their dependency on Google services, they will. And at the moment, those devices running outside the US market, not in China, are all running on Google services. But I could see them quickly getting to a point where they may not break into the US market, they may not break into all Western markets, but they will get a foothold outside of those markets using their own software, and there'll be no Google and no America in there whatsoever.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. And I think however long ago it was when all of this trade stuff started to happen, feels like forever, but what has it been, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, somewhere around there? I think I had less of an ability to believe that Huawei could pull it off. Now I'm feeling like feeling a little bit more optimistic that they could actually make a run with this. And at a certain point, like you said, they're going to realize if they've got a little bit of that momentum and they're doing fine in the markets that they're in, they're going to realize like, hey, you know, being with the Google services could actually be a liability because, hey, it could be removed from us at any time. We don't want our company to revolve around that.
Right.
Let's focus 100% on just continuing to develop this as us alone. And I think there's no reason to believe that they couldn't pull that off. I think it's entirely possible. And then finally, there's HTC.
Who's HTC? No, I kid. But I saw on 9 to 5 Google.
But seriously, who's HTC?
Yeah. I saw on 9 to 5 Google that HTC's CEO confirmed with an Asian site, UDN, that they do have plans of releasing a 5G flagship, air quotes, smartphone this year. Not much was said about it from a detail standpoint, but it was pretty curious to hear that those 3 letters put together with a smartphone because HTC really hasn't done much in several years now other than dabble with the VR world, if you will, with the Vive. And even that sort of getting gobbled up a good bit by the folks at Facebook and Oculus. But I got a little bit of nostalgia because I used to be a big fan of the Sense UI for HTC, and the last HTC
of all
phone
the
UIs,
I think it was one
pretty
of them
slick
that I was okay with.
The last one that I had was the HTC. I think it was the One X Max or something like that. It was about a 6-inch phone. Pretty good specs for the time. Horrible camera. They only had about 4 megapixels on their camera.
Oh yeah.
But that was their thing. They had this whole quote unquote megapixel technology on all of their flagships that was supposedly going to be better in low light with bigger pixels. They were not. Supposedly going to give you a lot more detail. They did not. But from a phone standpoint, they were great phones. They ran really well. And like I said, the Sense UI was so much cleaner than most skin versions of Android.
Yeah.
Even down to the little blink feed that was similar to how Google, remember Google Now?
Yeah.
You know, it was a pretty nice little design for them. But
Google Now has turned into one of those things that we have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
It was such
Just
a big
swipe right.
Yeah.
Just swipe right.
I mean, now it's called the Google feed, but still, it's been a while since I thought about Google Now. I was looking, while you were talking, I was looking because I was like, gosh, what did HTC do last year? Like, did they even have phones? And it's so hard to remember.
Ocean 11.
Yeah. What's that?
The Ocean 11, I think they called it.
I thought that was a movie.
HTC Ocean 11. I don't know.
Or HTC
U11.
Ocean.
The Ocean U11.
U11, that's right.
There you go.
U11.
Okay.
I do remember that now.
So the U11, there's also
I'd like
the
to make a
HTC
plea to Ron.
U19E and the Desire U19 Plus,
I remember
only
the
released in
Desire.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, what were you saying?
I have a plea to Ron, who I take as the official custodian of the Android Hall of Fame. That
I am.
I would suggest that the HTC One, I think it was called, their original all aluminium unibody phone,
That's the one.
is a worthy contender for entry into the hall, as I think maybe the first beautiful Android phone
I
to
co-sign
come
that.
out, and I think spearheaded Android design.
It did, actually.
Generations full.
I mean, that is a great nomination, Duncan.
I co-sign.
I mean, that phone really was a game changer. And then not only was a solid performer, it set the design paradigm from HTC and set the expectations for several iterations to go after it, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember the M5, the M7, you know, like all the way up the line from it. It was those were all great phones.
And how many...
Victor, you've got about 12 seconds to create a bumper for entry into the Hall of Fame.
We really do need. We do need. I mean, if you think about all the time spent on goat-related bumpers compared to bumpers that actually matter, like the Hall of Fame bumper sound effect, Victor, I'm just saying maybe we grow up a little. Well done.
Well played,
All right,
Mr. Victor.
Victor's
Well
got the
played.
power. You know,
Apps.
but you are absolutely right. The HTC One, from a design perspective, it launched that like aluminum unibody design thing that we saw for a solid 3 to 4 years.
Jason, do you remember us talking about how it's one piece of metal and like we were just amazed that
absolutely
like boom sound speakers.
Boom sound. Oh boy.
I really feel like not because we have so much time, but we could totally spin off just an Android nostalgia show where we just reminisce about the first time we saw this phone or whatever.
Totally.
Android, get off my lawn.
Well, that's another show too. I mean, that's
that's right. All right, let's talk about some apps right now. Android back in my day.
All right, so this is the apps the app section that's pissing me off.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right.
Where's my popcorn?
Not the section, just this story.
This particular. Okay, I was like, wow, it's a 1-2 punch for you. Time for your weekly update on the Google Play Music, YouTube Music transition. We'll keep counting down the days here. Upload functionality for YouTube Music appears to be imminent. Some folks are gaining access on mobile and desktop devices. Version 3.51 is the version to look for, and you can see if you're one of the lucky winners. You can add files by drag and drop inside of the web player. It supports FLAC, M4A, MP3, OGG, and WMA files currently. You get to this section in the app through library songs uploads or library albums uploads, and they're just all listed there, which to me kind of seems like a nightmare scenario if you've got a library as large as I think we all do in Google Play Music. Mm-hmm. They do call out a couple of things. You're going to be able to listen to your uploaded music offline and ad-free, even if you aren't a paid subscriber, so that's good. Also, that it includes a note in the app to Google Play Music users that a feature is coming most definitely to seamlessly transfer music from your Google Play Music library to the YouTube Music library. It's coming soon. Google says they're going to give plenty of warning for when that happens. So these pieces are being laid out one week after another.
Boy,
the drumbeat marches on.
I finally jumped ship and went to Spotify with the family.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
It was within the last couple of weeks. It's been fairly recent.
Okay. So a couple of weeks. And how do you feel about it?
Totally fine.
Totally fine?
I was able to push my playlist over to Spotify, and the family, I was able to get them to push their playlists over, and we haven't missed a beat. Everything's been just fine because I didn't want to wake up one day and be stuck with YouTube Music. It was a pretty bad experience when I tried it out, and I just never went back.
But it's better.
How?
I don't know. They keep adding things. I don't know. Every once in a while, I open it. I know what I need to do. What I need to do is I need to set myself a challenge to live with it and to rely on it for however long it takes for me to really understand it the way I understand Google Play Music. It's just a hard transition.
It was
because my entire family is built around Google Play Music.
Right, and that's how I was. And I remember when I proposed to the family that, hey, look, we probably need to start looking at other options. And the first thing I started with was YouTube Music. And it wasn't a day, and the two hardheads was like, no, Dad, this ain't working.
Yeah, we're not doing this, Dad. So anyways,
here's the nonsense about this is that and I just checked. I don't have access to this yet, so I don't have it or whatever. But like, I don't know. How about letting me access my library from YouTube Music? Like, why are we still waiting for that? Right, I literally go to YouTube Music, and I'm logged into the same account that I am with Google Play Music,
right.
And I go to artists, and I see the one artist that I happen to subscribe to their channel on YouTube, and that's it.
Not good.
Yeah.
Google has exactly one chance to get this right, and that is to give us what we already have with Google Play Music. Just like Inbox, they will take that app out of my cold, dead hands, close down the server, and forcibly erase it from my phone before I switch. And on the day that happens, if they have not returned the feature parity, they will lose people. The people I talk to who even bother using Google Play Music use it solely for uploading their music.
Right.
And it's great. It's free. It works well. I have a ton of music CDs on there that do not exist in any online catalog anywhere. Weird compilation CDs. There's one CD my wife and I listen to when renovating. It's the one CD we play. It doesn't exist anywhere but a drawer in my house and Google Play Music. And if they take that away and they take away the ease of finding it and playing it, they'll kill the service.
Mm-hmm. What's crazy is Google has the resources to provide all of these capabilities. So many smart people, so much money is there. They can figure out data points and figure out proper indexing and being able to give you every single one of these features.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they care. I don't think they care about the power user. Over the years, I've noticed what I call the dumbing down of Android and the dumbing down of Google.
Okay.
They use data to show that advanced features aren't used because they're not. They're used by the minority, the most invested, the most involved, those who know the products the best. But we're the smallest proportion. But we're also their biggest advocates, and they're the people who will go out.
I don't want to sound
with
disparaging, but do you think this is an Apple effect? Because I've heard that same sentiment about iOS. Not trying to talk down to anyone using iOS, but I've always heard the same sentiment of iOS is just sort of anybody can use it kind of thing, even the least technical person.
And maybe Google wants a little bit of that.
Right.
If you're Google and you're making all your money on advertising, basically, you have the world's largest operating system platform and the most devices in the market, and yet you can't turn a single dime from it. I guarantee you that's exactly what they're chasing.
Yep. Yep.
So they don't care about the people who are watching this show. And I don't mean that in a negative way. We're just not what they're chasing.
Right.
And they are running a business and a data-driven business. And when they have data that says one thing versus another, and that one thing satisfies 98% of the users.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
You're talking multiple, how many millions or even billions of users? Like
analytics are analytics.
Yeah, I mean, Google's just going to rely on that. But it's unfortunate because for the longest time, what Google did that a lot of people really connected to was that they did appeal to the power user. They did kind of throw in these weird little quirky things that 98% of the users aren't going to understand, but the 2% that do, oh man, I love Google because of that,
Not enough.
And that kind of starts to peel away. It becomes very vanilla, very basic.
Yeah.
Very kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's fine. But yeah. Ron, you got the next one.
I do got the next one. Thank God. Well, hey, over, up in Seattle, in the Redmond area, Microsoft is bringing its Defender antivirus to Android soon. Because what you've been looking for is a Microsoft antivirus for Android. It's no doubtly going to be different from Defender for Windows, as mobile security and needs and the OS is much different. But the big goal would be to prevent phishing attacks. How is unclear at the moment, though. Not sure how it's going to do that. Unlikely to be available for consumers. It's more than likely aimed at enterprise use. And Microsoft is planning to preview the app at RSA. But hey, it's funny because I feel like we live in a post-antivirus world.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like I remember how that was like you had to have it, you had to do your updates. I always did that and all that fun stuff. And it just made me laugh that they're going to bring antivirus, and it's not really antivirus; it's more malware protection, I guess.
Yeah,
but
right.
yeah.
But Windows Defender is a known quantity, and it has
it's a brand.
Certain brand cachet to it, and certain people have probably wondered, why can't I have that on my Android device? Well, Microsoft is happy to
that 98% you're talking about.
Yes, right. Because I need an antivirus app for my phone.
I have it on my computer running Windows XP. I should have it on my phone, right?
Do we live in a post antivirus world, or is that just the four of us feeling so confident in our ability with technology that we feel like we don't need it, but other people
I recognize that the moment those words left my lips, I'm like, I'm going to regret this quote.
I plead a fifth. Yeah, I plead a fifth, sir.
I've got a different take on it.
All right, what's your take?
I think we live in a world post, at least, especially on Android, this kind of virus scanner. Yes, there are exploits, but those exploits are normally deeper in the system or in a specific app that an app like this wouldn't have control over, especially as Android gets more and more segregated.
Yeah.
And so I think it is that strategy, Jason, that Microsoft wants to have one app on your phone. They'd like to have 10, but if they can get just one app on everyone's phone, that's the starting point for them, because they're no longer a hardware player in the mobile space. They're a software player.
Yep.
So I think that's... Yeah, so if it's to get someone to put a virus defender on there because they're scared and they use it, I don't think it will be useful, but we're not post-exploit, we're not post-virus, but I think we're post the utility of these kind of apps on this platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. That with a bow on top. All right, cool. So we've got a couple of emails that we can blast through real quick, and then we'll get into the arena. And you got the first one.
All right. So this one comes from Robert. He says he's figured that we might be interested in the fact that even though Essential is dead, they're still pushing the files that you need to build Android R for the phone, which is kind of nice. So he's also sent us a little link to the GitHub just so we could get all nerdy and check it out. I'm not so sure I want to touch any of that stuff, but it is pretty fast. Oh, I can't get it to click. There it goes.
That's okay. It's just a GitHub page.
There we go.
There's a bunch of stuff on it.
But yeah, this we talked about Andy Rubin and Essential dying down, but it is pretty neat seeing that all of these resources are still available. But I guess that's just the beauty of just the AOSP in general. And
yeah, and I wonder. I feel like maybe this had something to do with because Essential was always right there. In the last couple of years with these updates, they were probably working on this up until the day Essentials shut down.
Yeah,
and so then it's like, oh well, we did the work, you know. So I'm guessing maybe part of like the Essential, people who were working on this in Essentials. Well, we did the work. Let's put it out there.
Put it out there and let people play.
And I'm kind of surprised that they're able to do that, depending on how the business closed down.
Like
that they could do that with those assets,
Well, but if it's open, doesn't it mean it's open?
I suppose so. I mean, yeah, I suppose so. But if the company is working on that code and someone working there decides to release that code after the company is already gone, like I don't know how that works out.
Yeah, that's what I worry about is the legal side of it, because dissolved is one thing, and open is one thing. Mm-hmm. So where do we draw the line if this was to have a judge in the middle of this discussion?
Yeah. Yeah. But the developer build is going to be available, of course. It doesn't mean that the official build is going to be available. In fact, I mean, Google has said they said as much. There won't be any more official updates coming to the phone. Essential said that, sorry. But I think that's where the community steps in, and I'm sure there's enough of a community energy behind it.
And that brings me back to our Android, our Android developer preview that we talked about earlier. And it's just that whole anticipation. When you see something like this as a little playground, just how excited are the developers to see that out there for something that's not going to exist anymore, and is there potential to sort of mutate it into something else bigger and better? You never know.
Yeah. ML emailed AAA@twit.tv to say, we were talking last week very randomly about aluminum versus aluminium.
Oh, yeah.
The British, ML says, the British discoverer of aluminum named or called it aluminum. It was the British science community that changed it to aluminium, only to make it similar to, is it barium, calcium, and the other neighboring elements. So in my mind's eye, the discoverer of aluminum's naming convention is the correct spelling.
I'm with you, but that's what they also say about GIF and GIF.
I was just going to say, it's the same thing.
Well, no, there's one answer.
Do you want
there.
some nougat?
It's GIF, and that's it. It's GIF or get out. So, yeah.
Yep.
That literally came up at work today, where one of my employees said, "Ron, is it GIF or GIF?" And I said, "It's GIF, and if anybody says GIF, I'll fire them."
Man,
sounds like I'm going to be fighting with Ron.
Oh man! First the courage port, now this. Man, I thought we had a bond. I like aluminium though. I like that.
I love how you're both half right.
Where do you stand?
Oh, it's a GIF with a courage port.
Oh man! Wow! I love it. High five.
Is it aluminum or aluminium?
It's aluminium.
Aluminium.
Of course, he speaks the Queen's English, right?
Queen's English.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right, fair enough. Fine.
I barely speak Southern.
Ron, you got the next one.
All right. Well, our next one is just stepping in it, but I'll read it anyway. So Alan from Fremont writes in and says, "I love the arena, But could you have a few minutes of content for people like me, people new to the Android interface, a tip or app that you think everyone should know?
Oh.
And honestly, Jason, that's a great idea. And I it's funny because in the comic book industry, there's a saying, at least at Marvel Comics, that every comic book is somebody's first. And so you have to write the comic in a way that people can learn it and do all that sort of stuff. And with the with 461 episodes under our belt, we have a lot a lot of history with Android. Hence the All About Android Nostalgia spinoff podcast.
Yeah.
But like having entry level kind of tips and things like that, I think there's some value to that. Maybe we should figure out how to do that.
For sure.
Now that said,
oh yeah.
Oh, go on. After you, Duncan.
For Alan, I have an app that you have to install now because the earlier you install it, the earlier you get the benefit. We'll put it in the show notes, hopefully, but it's Google Opinion Rewards. It literally gives you free money for answering silly little questions about, did you visit this place today? You get 10 cents or $1 or something like that. I have not paid for IAP. I have not paid for Google One. I have not paid for an app in so long because I know how to game the system. When you know what questions they're being asked, you drive home via those three places.
That's
and
right.
you will get 3 surveys. Did you go to Bunnings? Did you go to Woolworths? Did you go to JB Hi-Fi? You go, I went near it.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
So that is a must for every Google user who wants to ever pay for anything.
That's a great tip, and so go download that.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Alan had a suggestion on how to get things started, and this is where he really steps in it. His question is, how do I get my music off iTunes? On my phone, there seem to be 3 apps: Amazon Music, which I guess only works with files I downloaded from them, Google Music, and Apple Music. It seems easy to use Apple Music, but it also seems like after 3 months I have to pay to listen to my own music. Oh, Apple. So is my only choice Google Music or something else? Any ideas? And yes, Alan, something else. My God. No, I mean, for right now, it's Google Play Music. That is your best option. In fact, there's if you have iTunes on your desktop or Apple Music or whatever, and you download the Google Play Music helper app. At least I'm on OS, on Mac OS X. I believe it works for Windows as well too. It will automatically take your entire iTunes local library and upload it to Google Play Music, but as we discussed minutes ago, Google Play Music is going away and is going to be taken over by YouTube Music, and that's a bit of an unknown at this point.
Spotify.
But I feel like there are other ways to do this. And Jason, maybe we take this as homework for next week's episode.
Yeah, we could do that. You mean?
And we do some research and we come back on how to migrate from iTunes to an Android phone?
Migrate from iTunes to Android. Yeah. Absolutely.
Sounds like a hands-on Android episode in the making.
It could.
It does.
Could be something like that. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk. Talk about this.
The irony is that I am not on next week's episode.
Wait a minute.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, so then it definitely will be a hands-on Android episode.
No, but I want to do it here too. Oh, I don't know. But
no. It could be here. That's fine.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. Well, maybe I'll wait until you're back, though, Ron.
Yeah,
so
we'll do it in 2 weeks. But keep on listening. But I think, Jason, we should talk offline and figure out how we can do that, because I think that's, often we struggle to have content in the app section because there's just not much app news. Yeah. That could be a good replacement, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually a really good point. I love that.
Cool.
Great suggestion, Alan. Thank you for emailing that into AAA.
Sorry, I was experimenting with new transitions for.
I noticed
either that one or the old school Android show.
Was it like a harp? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, there's like a harp here. Oh.
It's pretty cool.
That glissando up was really nice.
Yeah, and you guys can do a Wayne's World thing.
All right, it's time for the arena.
Yes.
So many enter.
Did we win?
But only one lives.
Last week's poll. It was between Betamaniac, Photo Mate R3, and Goats Battle. I'll give you 3 guesses who had Goats Battle. And I'm kind of surprised because usually the goat runs away with it.
All right.
But my app won.
What?
Betamaniac wins
Nice.
Almost 49% of the votes.
It was a cool app, though.
Yeah,
it was a
cool app. I heard from the developer too. He thanked me. So you are very welcome, sir. Goats Battle wins second at 26%, and Photo Mate R3 third
Holding
at
up the
almost
rear.
25%.
Rats.
Yeah,
That's
how
okay.
it goes.
We'll bounce back.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. So in terms of the results, we're 7 weeks in, and we got it's crazy now. So Ant, unfortunately, you're in last place with 2 points because you're new. I am unfortunately in third place because I missed 2 weeks, and now I've got 12 points, and my good momentum with the start of the year came to a halt. Jason, you are tied for second place with the guests with 18 points.
Yes.
And somehow, while on maternity leave, Flo is in first place with 23 points.
Yeah, closing the gap,
Magical.
Yeah, you and the guests are closing the gap, and I got a lot of work to do. So but what's great is that Ant gets to go first because he came in last.
That's right.
Holding up the rear. Well, my app pick is a photography related app. This is actually new to Android. It's called First Light, and it's from the folks at Filmic. If you've ever heard of Filmic Pro, this is an app that's used for videography, particularly if you have a smartphone gimbal. And it has a lot of built-in tools. Well, that team decided to put more into an actual camera app for stills, not just video. And as you can see, you have a lot of different options in here, whether you want to change the aspect ratio, such as squared, 5:4, 4:3, 16:9, so on and so forth. If you have multiple lenses on your device, let me move the camera here. There we go. You can tap to select which lens you want. So right now, you can see that I'm staring at Andy the Android over there with the wide angle.
Hi, Andy.
But now I'm switching over to the tele lens, so it's got a tighter view. One of my favorite features is the actual gestures built in. I can update the exposure just in case it's a little too dark in here, just by gesturing up. But you get these little zebra stripes where it was red that says, hey, that's highly overexposed.
Oh, yeah, I saw them.
And now I need to bring the exposure back down because you can't see it on the camera. And if I wanted to bring it down more and make it a little bit darker, you get more zebra stripes that says, you know what?
That.
It's underexposed over there in those blue areas and at his feet, like that.
Yeah.
Those are great features, but if you're used to a mirrorless camera, you'll have focus peaking inside of your mirrorless camera. So you can just swipe to the right, and as you can see, that's lining up around Andy the Android that's saying, okay, he's not in focus here, but he is in focus now because of this particular gesture, as well as those other green areas on there. And all of that works very well as far as trying to figure out what type of depth of field you're trying to show and focal point, depending on the subject that you have. There's several different options as far as the type of file format between JPEG and a RAW file, but you can even shoot in TIFF or even the high efficiency version of the new JPEG that's out there. HDR mode, more histogram stuff if you want that. Timer, lots and lots and lots of different options built into this. And there's a free version of it, but I highly recommend going to the pro version. It's an $8 app, which is a heck of a deal if you're into photography and like to utilize all of these particular tools. But the free version is still pretty cool too. But yeah, it's pretty quick. I've been playing around with it for right at a week now and getting really good performance out of it, good images, even down to its HDR mode. The HDR mode on it was really, really good. I tried to play around with some shots of my dog. I think I got a couple shots in here. Here we go. Because my dog, Kylo, is a really, really dark dark dog, and we shot in a dark room, but you could still get some of the detail on him without an issue.
Yeah, and it actually comes through a little bit better in person than it does on the screen that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Tell me, does Kylo start dark but end up light?
Kylo is always dark because he is one interesting puppy, if you will. Even though he's First Light. Filmic Pro is their video, but Filmic First Light is the photo app. You can get it for free, but if you want to go to the Pro version of it, that's at $7.99 or $8 there in Google Play. Heck of an app. Really, really dig it.
Excellent. Love it. It's a Filmic First Light camera. Good pick. All right, Ron, I have your app installed on not one, but 2 devices.
All right, so this is going to be interesting. So if you're like me, you often go places, you want to take pictures of people. I can't stand doing the selfie shot and holding the camera up and trying to get everybody in the frame and all this sort of stuff. And if you have friends that also have Android phones, it's fascinating. When you want to get a group shot together and there are multiple Android phones, there's got to be some way to harness the technology to actually get a good shot. Well, I came across this app, which is just ridiculous. It's called Say Cheese Remote Camera. And essentially what it allows you to do is that if you have 2 Android phones, you can connect them and then have one camera control the camera on the other phone. So as Jason is showing here, he has 2 phones side by side to one another, and they are connected via the app. And you are able to see what the camera sees on the second phone, and you can control the shutter button. You have all controls over the camera that you would want from it, all remotely. So what you can do is that if you have a little tripod,
yes.
or if you have like one of those little, the ones with the little legs, like the gorilla ones or whatever, or even if you just prop it up on the table or anything like that, you can see what the camera sees. You can control zoom and flash and all that sort of stuff.
Show me things.
And it also has the ability to have to capture the sound effects and to utilize it in all the ways that the camera can. And it's fascinating. And most importantly, you can take a picture on the other phone by controlling it with the second phone. That's bananas.
Okay,
right?
okay, Mr.
Cool.
Richards, that's pretty badass. I give you that.
That's pretty cool. Now it does require, and there it is. There's the taken photo. The photo taken.
That is really cool.
Instagram husbands everywhere are hating you, Ron.
Yeah, I know, right? It does require 2 phones, and so all of us with multiple phones, it was easy for me to test this with my 2 OnePlus phones and things like that. But really, if your crew runs deep with Android phones and you have friends that have multiple, if everyone's carrying an Android phone, just all install this so you all have it, and then you can connect to each other's phone and be able to take remote photos and get that great group shot, as opposed to an annoying extended selfie arm shot.
That's what I do.
There it is. Say Cheese remote camera. It is able to. It does not require the internet to connect. It's able to connect locally. It does do the connection over Wi-Fi, but it's not actually using the internet. Just it's just connecting a direct phone to phone. That's a great photo, by the way. A direct phone to phone tunnel. Say Cheese remote camera. It's free in the Google Play Store. Take better photos with 2 phones. There it is. So.
Oh, okay. And Zoom is in here, although it is a premium feature, so that is a feature that you pay for.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Very nice.
Pretty cool.
Love it.
So
that's a very unique app. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Great approach.
So.
Cool. And it works with Android 11 Developer Preview 1, by the way.
Look at that. Not buggy.
There you go. Not bad at all. All right, Duncan, your app, you can talk about it. I'm only going to show part of it because I don't want to reveal too much about my Microsoft account, but you go for it.
Yeah, this week I'm going for the distinction of the shortest ever App Arena section, I think, because it's quite a basic app. So I've brought Microsoft Authenticator to the arena this week. It is a standard authenticator app from some descriptions, just like Authy or Google Authenticator. You can add external codes, have them come up, type them into websites and so forth. And so it's good for that. But for anyone who uses Microsoft products, and my day job is with a health department, and so we're a Microsoft shop there, so I have to use it for work, and I have my own account and so forth. Their system doesn't translate into those other apps. You have to use this Authenticator app, at least through my work account. And it works very similar to a normal Authenticator. You set it up in your account, it comes through here, it it brings up the code and you can type it in. But the thing that I really love for people who use Microsoft, and if you have a Microsoft account, you 100% should be using two-factor authentication, of course, is that it will actually just give you a device prompt. So if you try to log in, rather than having to, pull it out, find the code, type it in, have it confirmed, you just tapped accept from your notifications and you're in. There are some security permissions there that you can lock down. Make sure you set up a backup authentication method. If you look at the Play Store reviews, you will find out how people feel if they do not have a backup authentication method, because this thing will lock you out of your account just like a Jason Howell.
I don't want to do that.
So,
learn from my mistake.
Yeah. So I don't mean to pay out on you all show long, Jason, but you've taught us so much.
He didn't say, did you catch? He didn't say just like Jason Howell. He said just like a Jason Howell.
Well, there's many of us out there. I'm sure I'm not the only Jason Howell to have locked myself out of my Google account.
And so you spam on that and you're through. That's really it. It's a really basic app. It's an essential app if you have a Microsoft account. And if you're not using two-factor authentication, you really should. And this is a good product. Like I said, Microsoft's goal is to get at least one app on all of your devices. This is an app well worth considering.
Nice.
So I'd like to put the plug in, of course, that if you do vote for this app, you are indeed voting for Team GG&G, and I wouldn't be doing the team right without just putting that little plug in.
Yeah.
Mr. Duncan, is this the same, or is this a spinoff of Company Portal from Microsoft? I used to have to work with Microsoft team, and we used that two-factor authentication. I think it was called Company Portal or Company Tunnel or something like that. Is this just an iteration of that?
So I work for a government health department, and so we went to Office 365 a few years ago. Before that, I think we were using DOS. So we may have skipped over the company portal and gone straight to the latest product.
Okay.
We went from absolutely no security and old products to their top-of-the-line product. So I think I may have skipped any association with that.
Okay, cool.
Nice. It is Microsoft Authenticator. Microsoft makes great apps. So, of course, I'm sure those who would rely on Microsoft Authenticator can be very happy with it. Microsoft Authenticator. Check it out. All right. Okay, so my app is a game. It's a long-awaited sequel. I don't remember playing the original one, but when I saw this bubble up, I started to read about it, and Beat Hazard 1 came out years and years and years ago, and people seem to really love it and have been waiting for a long time for a sequel. Well, now we have one. Beat Hazard 2 is out. I'm going to turn up the volume because it is a music-based game. Oh yeah, and here's some like trance, techno, or whatever. But the thing that's cool about this is if you don't like this music, it's cool. You can use any of the music on your device.
Oh.
So manage music. Oh. I can go in here, my music.
Does it work with YouTube music?
No. So it's only it's only downloaded music. So it's got to be downloaded on your device. So I don't know how many people have music downloaded on their device. Let's see here. No, there we go. We'll go ahead and do this classic from Green Day. Let's see here. Hopefully there aren't any swear words in it. So play current track. It's a very frenetic game. It's a dual stick controller. One moves you around. The other aims your shooter. And basically it's just destroy everything on the screen, including, bosses that come out of nowhere. And all of the lighting that happens is all timed with the music. So if you have the right song playing,
this is amazing.
Yeah,
it's pretty slick.
It's really slick. It moves really well. It's designed with gamepad support built in, though I'm showing it with a touchscreen. But if you play it with a gamepad, it's even better. And I don't know, it's just a really well-designed, super impressive-looking game. And the fact that it integrates with your own music and kind of integrates that into the visual effects that you see on the screen, it just gives you a little bit of flexibility as far as what you actually want the game to respond to. I just think that's a cool feature. It's not just layering on some music that you play. It's actually building that into the experience.
So my question is, why haven't we seen more of stuff like this?
I don't know. It's a good question.
It seems like such an easy thing to do. I'm really impressed.
This is the boss. I hope I can do something about this. It's kind of, you got to kind of be okay with the using the two controllers, one to move, one to direct your shooting, and I'm not the best at it, and I just died. But it is a lot of fun to play. It's called Beat Hazard 2.
Wow.
It's actually, so it's early access right now, which means it's 50% off. So it's $3.99 right now. So that's going to double at some point. And I'd say get it now. If that looks like a game that you want to play, now is the time to get it. It is intense, Wade County. And that's why it's fun. It's as intense as the music that you give it.
This arena was a nice crop of apps.
Yeah. Jam-packed arena full of really great apps. All right, so
can I suggest some hardware for you, Jason?
Yes.
For a game like that?
Oh, put it into. There you go. So what is that? What am I looking at? Is that
this specific one is the Razer Jungle Cat.
The Razer. Okay.
They've got a new one. So this only works in several phones because it's got a hard case. But they've got a new one coming out that's more adaptable, and there's others on the market. I reviewed one of these recently, and it totally transformed how I play some games on Android. It's not good for everything, but what it's good for, it's great for.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the Razer one that's coming out, because it has like a very universal USB-C plug. Is it the... No, it's not the Raiju. That was 2018. The Kishi.
Kishi, yep.
That's it. The Kishi early 2020 release. That's going to be sweet. I really want to play around with that when that releases. Yeah, good suggestion. That would integrate really nicely with a game like that. All right, so go to twit.to/AAA poll 461, twit.to/AAA poll 461, and place your vote for your favorite app. Is it Beat Hazard 2, Say Cheese, Filmic First Light Camera, or Microsoft Authenticator?
What's it going to be, Victor?
It's varied.
Come on, Victor.
Say cheese.
Oh, that's my boy. That's my boy V.
Victor likes taking pictures with two phones.
Well, the reason why it's that, and we were talking about Sony software in the past. I have one of those Sony DSLR cameras, and the accompanying app from Sony, you'd almost think that it's a really hard thing to do because it doesn't always work and it doesn't always pair. So kudos for that.
Yeah, good
that
stuff.
Say Cheese app working.
Yeah, it works
as good as
seamlessly.
On a dev preview at that.
Yes.
Yeah, seamlessly
Something.
it worked.
It's magic.
It's the magic of Ron. Yes, indeed. So thank you for placing that vote. We'll check in on the results next week on the show. Duncan, Jaffrey, always a pleasure getting you on, man. Thank you so much for hopping on. And I'm really, from a certain perspective, I'm very happy that you didn't have to sacrifice your sleep in Barcelona, because you're actually, like, it's normal time for you at home where you're at right now, right?
1 p.m.
Okay, so
perfectly reasonable.
If you were in Barcelona, it would be the middle of the morning, and I'd feel a little bit worse.
4 a.m.
Yeah, I'd be a little sad about keeping you up so late. So I'm happy that you could join us during the daytime. But it's great getting you on. Tell people what you want them to know about everything you're working on.
You can follow me and the rest of the Osdroid crew either at osdroid.net or on Osdroid on Twitter. We're Australia's largest source of independent news for Android and connected technology. So come on over. We're a part-time organisation, so we've all got day jobs as well. But despite that, we put out quite a lot of good stuff. So please come over and have a look, especially if you're looking for the Australian or Asia Pacific perspective. We're starting to cover a little bit broader than just Australia, as we find there's a lack of information for the English-speaking Asia Pacific region.
Awesome. Yes, osdroid.net. Thank you again, Duncan. And if you're ever in the Bay Area, if you're ever out here for an event, please let us know. We'd love to have you in the studio. It'd be a lot of fun. Have you back in the studio. That's actually how I met you. I think you came in for This Week in Google, and it was something with a Pixel, right? Like you had like the first Pixel or something?
I was there for the Pixel 1 event and made the pilgrimage up just to sit in the studio and watch, and met some of the staff there, and sort of they just were asking what I was doing there, and hurried away for a second, and next thing I know, I had a laptop, a set of headphones, and I was sitting right where Ant is.
Right on the set. Yeah, sometimes that's how it works here.
You got him like that too, really?
What's that?
You got him like that too?
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, I never quite got the job offer though, Ant. So, good job.
I will say, I mean, I mean, Ant, you're the example. Duncan, you guys example. I went to a Twit taping with Leo in 2005 in San Francisco, I think, at the Moscone or Exploratorium or something like that. It was a live Twit taping, and I introduced myself to Leo, and like this. That's what happens. We all start in the audience. That's what we found. Yeah.
Very true. So very true.
I did the same thing too.
Same with Father Robert.
Yeah. There's a number of examples of that for sure. Wow. Well, Duncan, I'm happy that you were in the studio then, because I really enjoyed bringing you on the show. So thanks again for hopping on, and we will have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And it was lovely to meet you, Ant.
Likewise,
I've loved you joining the network, and good to see you as always, Ron.
Yep.
Thank you.
Always great. Thanks for the ham on.
The virtual ham on.
The virtual ham on.
Ron, what's new with you?
Yeah, so it's been a while. I missed you all. You're fantastic. You can follow me on Twitter at RonXO or on Instagram at RonXO. And also check out Scorebit.io, which is my fun side project where we're working on building internet-connected devices that go inside pinball machines and the app to support it and all that fun stuff. And March is going to be very busy for us. We're going to be in Denver next week at the World Championships on Thursday, March 5th, I think, or 4th or 5th. I think it's March 5th, is the IFPA, the International, I forget what it stands for, the IFPA Pinball World Championships, and Scorebit will be powering all the scorekeeping for it. And then later this month, we're going to be at the Texas Pinball Festival in Dallas, and we're going to be making some announcements. So keep an eye out, and I'll be sure to keep everybody posted later in March when all the news hits and all that fun stuff. But I'm going to be very busy these next few weeks, so it's fun times.
So we got some news around the corner. Can't wait to hear it, man.
It's fun. Hardware, man. We're doing it. We said hardware is hard. I'm living it. I'm living the dream now.
That's good. Awesome. You're doing all the hard work right now.
It's very hard. And honestly, coronavirus has me very scared because we're manufacturing in China, and that's the problem. So,
that is a challenge. Absolutely. Yeah. You're not alone for sure. Well, I'm crossing my fingers for you. Thank you, Ron. Ant, what you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about hands-on photography every Thursday here on the network, twit.tv/hop, where we're going to do a couple different tips and tricks to help you be a better photographer, a better post-processor, and have a little fun. Me and my man, Mr. Victor, back there in the booth there, we just chat and share some insight and have a little fun, Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Not more fun than this one, Jason.
It's okay. It can be equally as fun, okay?
Okay.
It can be the exact same amount of fun, and that's it.
Oh, I don't have to play favorites?
And y'all can
It can be more fun.
Yeah, y'all can also follow me on Instagram, too. That's ant_Pruitt on Instagram.
Yeah, and you should. Awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Thank you, Victor, by the way, for everything, for not playing any goat media today. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Cue the goat in 3.
Yeah, no. That was not a plug for you to do that. My new show, Hands on Android, launched last week with an episode focusing on digital well-being. So that is up now, twit.tv/HOA this Thursday. I do a very deep dive on Android 11 Developer Preview 1, showing off the things that you can show off, everything that I was able to get access to anyways, and some of the things that you're not. So twit.tv/HOA. And check it out. That's my new thing.
That image on the webpage there.
What image?
The image of you on the landing page for HOA.
Yeah.
It's dadgum beautiful, man. I love that shot. It's so well done.
Did you take it?
I didn't shoot it. No,
Did you take it?
I'm not tooting my own horn for once, but I love that photo of you. It's so well done.
Thanks, and I appreciate that. I think maybe Misako took that shot because she is very talented with the camera as well. So thank you, Misako. If you're going to the RSA conference in San Francisco, we are going to be there tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, we have a last pass after hours party at Bourbon and Branch Speakeasy. That's tomorrow, February 26th, 7 p.m. Might be a little late, but I thought I'd mention it. We'll be there. If you're interested, you will need a secret password to get in. That's just how Bourbon and Branch works. So RSVP to twit.to/RSA LastPass20. That's twit.to/RSA LastPass20. And maybe we'll meet you tomorrow at Bourbon and Branch. We'll all be there. The two of us will be there. Mike will be there. Leo, a whole bunch of Twit folk will be there.
Bourbon, you say?
And it's a lot of fun. Last year's party was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. That is it for this week. This show publishes every Tuesday evening, just as soon as Victor can get it out the door. Twit.tv/AAA is where you can go to subscribe to this show, find all the details about when we record Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, here at twit.tv/live if you want to watch it live. All of our subscribe links, audio, video, everything you need to know is there. And that's just the place you need to know. And this is the place you need to go. Twit.tv/AAA. I did not rehearse that. But that is it for this week. We'll see you all next week on another episode of All About Android. Bye, everybody.